If you're not at least a little bit weird, then I'd argue that you're being fake. And it makes total sense why you would be fake, right? Because being weird is usually not something that's very accepted by people in society. Like, nobody wants to hang out with the weird kid. Weird is usually a word used to describe a group of people or a group of behaviors by people that we don't like or that we don't agree with. But the thing about it is, life is weird. Like, life itself is weird. It's weird that we're on this floating giant rock in a vast expanse of space that goes on forever as far as we can tell. Nobody really knows how we got here or what we're doing here or what the purpose of all this is, right? These bodies are weird. The creatures on this earth are a bit weird. Our government, our politics are certainly weird, right? So so much about life is weird, and yet we're very afraid of being weird ourselves or feeling weird. And I think that really boils down to not wanting to be ostracized by our peers, ostracized by our families, ostracized by the people that we want to connect with the most. And that's understandable, but I think a cost of that we don't really consider very often is that by refusing to accept our own weirdness out of fear of being ostracized by others, we kind of ostracize ourselves within ourselves, right? Because there are aspects of ourselves that we don't accept just because we want to be accepted by others, then in a way that's self-betrayal. Speaking for myself, I've always felt a little weird. Like, I don't know. I think it really started off as a little boy, being, a more sensitive little boy and being surrounded by boys and men who at least pretended to not be sensitive, right? That kind of made me feel like an alien. But even beneath and beyond that, like, as far as I can remember, I've always felt kind of strange on Earth. Like, I've always felt kind of strange on this planet. Like, as a human being, it kind of felt like a foreign experience to me. And I guess it probably is a foreign experience to everybody, right? I mean, as far as we know, as far as we can prove, nobody has ever done this before. But I don't know, it's just I've always felt sort of out of place on Earth, sort of out of place in my family. Like, grew up black, in a super black family, and, if you know anything about black culture, it's kind of like, it's broad, right? But it's also very contained. Like, there's certain things that you can't do if you're black, or you're not supposed to do if you're black, or you're not supposed to like if you're black. But me, like, I've always felt extremely open to I've always felt extremely open to the entire human experience. Like, for me, being black was never, just because I was black didn't mean that I couldn't appreciate, like, certain kinds of music. Like, I grew up loving rock music, and that was one of the things that made me weird. And it kind of got to an extent to where over time, being black felt more like a limit to me than anything else. Like, it felt more like something that stifled me than something that empowered me. And a large part of that is because I had all these interests, these broader interests that I felt like being black didn't allow me to explore. And that contributed to me feeling weird. So this week on the channel, we're talking about worth and worthiness. And the reason why I'm talking about being weird is because I feel like when we feel weird, right, that's one of the things that also makes us feel unworthy. So I was speaking about how unworthiness is kind of rooted in how we feel that others perceive us, right? And so if we think ourselves to be weird, right, then we must think other people think we're weird as well. And that would certainly make us feel unworthy in their eyes. And so when I was doing this work on myself to try to get to the root of my unworthiness, and try to understand why I felt that way, I realized that a big reason why is because I truly feel weird, and I felt like my weirdness was unacceptable. And eventually I arrived at the point, or at the fact that, being weird doesn't make you unworthy. I kind of coined this phrase, which is weird and worthy, right? You can be weird and worthy at the same time. I'm not really saying that to try to make weird a cool word. Like, I get why we use weird in the context that we do. People do weird things. Like, I understand that we kind of use that word to protect ourselves from people who do things or act in certain ways that we feel are threatening to us. And I'm not trying to like change that, right? It's more so about how we feel within ourselves, right? And a lot of what makes us weird is actually what makes us unique. A lot of what makes us weird is actually what makes us interesting. A lot of what makes us weird is actually what makes us fun and what makes life fun. And I feel like if we get into the bad habit of denying our own weirdness, we're really denying a part of ourselves that is unique, the part of ourselves that is the unique divine expression of what we actually are. Because when you think about it, to not be weird is to conform. To not be weird is to go along with the crowd. To not be weird is to do what other people expect you to do. And I think there's a time and a place for that. Like, I'm a bit of a loner myself, and, it has pros and cons, but one of the cons is being lonely. And I think a lot of people kind of deny their own weirdness because they don't want to be lonely, and I can totally understand that. But I don't think it's worth isolating yourself from yourself just in order to be accepted. So I just wanted to hop on here real quick this morning and say, even if you feel weird, you're still worthy. You don't have to run from your weirdness. You don't necessarily have to broadcast it. Like, some things we should keep to ourselves. I'm not saying you should go out, and do the strangest things possible around people who might not understand it. But embrace your weirdness, especially within yourself, because it's truly what makes you unique. Like, I honestly wouldn't want to be any other person on this planet besides myself. And a large part of why is things that a lot of people would consider weird. You know what I mean? Like, I'll talk about this later on, but me and my kind of inner group of friends, my inner group of black friends, we call ourselves alternative blacks. And that is black people who have a similar cultural experience to a lot of other black people, right? But we also like a lot of things that don't really fit within the bubble when you traditionally think about black culture. And that's why I like those friends, and that's why I like myself. That's why I find it so interesting. And at the end of the day, black, white, purple, green, blue, we're all human, right? And this is a human experience, and so much of the human experience is weird, right? So embrace your weirdness. Don't be afraid to be who you are, and know that you are worthy regardless of how strange you might feel, how weird you might feel. So my name is Michael Sinclair. I'm a growth guide. Just want to hop on here real quick this morning and get this message out. We're going to continue talking about worth and worthiness this week. So if this sort of stuff interests you, I hope that you'll stick around. But even if you don't, I hope you have a great rest of your day. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace.